I'm told by Thursday morning the Obama administration will finally explicitly say Assad must go. How significant is that?
Well, it's taken them a long time to get there. Some of us have been urging that they say it a while ago. I'm not quite sure why it had to be this meandering dance to what was an inevitable conclusion, which was that it was impossible for the United States to support a hostile regime, an anti-American regime that had been brutally massacring its own people. It wasn't ever clear to some of us why we were taking so long to do it when we were willing to say that Mubarak had to leave, and he was a pro-American regime that had been a friend of ours in the face of similar protests. Now, I think what is significant is that it puts the screws even further on Assad, but I think it is not the beginning of the end. John, what we've realized about many of these regimes is they are real police states, really brutal, really tough, and they're tough to crack. Sanctions didn't get rid of Saddam Hussein. Sanctions and a no-fly zone so far have not gotten rid of Muammar Gaddafi, and I doubt that sanctions will get rid of President Assad in Syria.
And when you look at the growing list of outrage, you have now the United States saying he must go. You have tough words, finally, from leading Arab nations, including Saudi Arabia. But on the UN Security Council, Russia and China still reluctant to get tough, and Assad has in his back pocket the biggest wild card, which is Iran, right?
Precisely, and you put it exactly right, tough words. There's finally a lot more tough words, but tough words are not going to do very much. I think the President Assad probably looks at this and says, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. All that's happening is that people are calling him a lot of names. The sanctions don't matter that much because Syria is a pretty isolated economy. See, for sanctions to work, you need an economy that is deeply integrated into the international system. Countries like Iran, Syria are not particularly integrated. Syria needs some source of capital, and it has that in Iran, but it's limited because mostly Syria is a gangster state. It has a lot of, there's a lot of black market economy, there's a lot of smuggling, as it gets a certain amount of its weaponry and hard currency from Iran. That's all it needs to survive, certainly in the short run.
Some European nations, though, still do energy business with Syria. Is it possible that a tougher line from the Obama administration could bring tougher European sanctions as well?
They could bring tougher European sanctions, and you're right, there's a modest amount of energy business in Syria, but the money all flows directly to the regime, and that might make a difference. But look at Libya. We have an all-out civil war. We have a no-fly zone supporting the rebels. We have some covert assistance being provided, certainly by France and some other European countries, perhaps by the United States. And still, you don't have any signs that that regime is cracking. These guys have spent decades building up a structure of power that is entirely about regime preservation. While other regimes worry about raising standards of living and building infrastructure, these regimes are obsessed with staying in power. So it's going to take a lot more than one more ratchet of the sanctions screw to get them out of power.